Alrighty. So welcome everybody again to our Friday call. So we kind of took a poll last week and said, hey, what do we think? Should we continue on? And an overwhelming majority said yes, let's please continue on. So here we are again. So we'll take these out through the end of July and then check in again probably and see how we are. So welcome back. Love to hear from anybody. And I already put this in the chat box, I think to start off with, because, this is your call, our call, I guess, together. And so instead of presenting you with a topic today, I was hoping that there was something that you would like to talk about, maybe more than one person, but I just kind of put it out there in the chat box. Either speak up with a topic, bring something up, or you can go ahead and put it in the chat box, and I'm watching that as well. So I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I have something to talk about, but I'd rather hear from all of you first to see what you think.
I think I have something, Chris. I've been thinking a lot about, from the very beginning, how it seemed like everybody thought they knew what they were talking about. And then the further we get into this, it just seems like there's more and more information that is contradictory, and it's so frustrating to be in the middle of that and trying to figure out, okay, what do I really need to do here? What's the important thing that I need to be concentrating on, and how do we find our way through this and have the least, I guess the best way I can put it is collateral damage, because I do see what we're doing to the elders being damaging if we're not extremely careful. Sequestering them, making them feel like, they can't get together or have this community is, to me, very destructive, and I don't like that. I am glad we are seeing a bit of opening up, not as much as I'd like, but I understand the whole safety thing. It's just, I can't believe how long we had everybody just locked down. And that's been a great frustration for me. And I see my friend Neil Ann has joined, and I'm sure she could put her 2 bits in for this. So that's just kind of where my heart is. And I hope we've learned some things and that we can come up with better ways and better ideas. I have tried to influence our county health department, and I think it worked. So that's given me a bit of courage. So it's all about having a voice and not just allowing people to do things to us, and using that voice for the good of all.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, really good topic to bring up. So really talking about all these different conflicting messages, right, which are coming in from everywhere, different thoughts, different ideas, I imagine as well, working in an organization or a community, the conflicting message you're getting. I know I've heard this from the beginning, from the state level, from the federal level, right? And all that. So yeah, would anybody else like to chime in on that topic, please?
I always have lots to say too.
Love it.
I think what kind of has happened a little bit, Star, is that CMS is holding a pretty straightforward, nobody comes in, you're locked down, and then they say, but your health department can make a decision. And that's what we did here, that we have one person can come in the building. We made our own policy that 4 people can come in at any given time for people who are end of life. And we have outdoor visiting. So we still have all of that. We still hope to hold on to a lot of the FaceTime calls that we instituted that we wouldn't have done before. And that will need to stay, especially for people who don't live locally. But our local, the state health department has been much more lenient, but in North Dakota, we're one of the easier states also. That kind of Midwest kind of group of states is better off, probably because of lack of population as compared to others. So we're waiting to see what will happen this fall and if it's going to revert. The issue that we're having, that I'm having, is that many staff are frightened of loosening the rules. And so they're keeping things very medical, and we are pushing now to say, let's get back to some more person-centered. Yep, we took care of people, we took care of them well, but now let's let them live. And that's the hard part that we're going through right now. So I feel really bad, Star, if there's still no visiting. I came on the call late. It was really important. And in fact, one of the wives of a gentleman that lives here, when she came in, she said, I feel like it's our first date. I'm so excited and so anxious that it's like a first date. And you know, that kind of made us all think as well, what have we done?
Meredith, we do finally have that glass door visit with phones, and that's a step in the right direction. They're starting to talk about outdoor visits, which would be another step, but they're making it quite labor intensive for us because they're requiring that that's entirely monitored. So that means we have to have, you know, somebody who is observing to make sure none of the rules are broken. And, you know, so figuring all those things out, it's just very layered and brings lots of new things in that we have to consider. And, you know, even the glass door visits, that takes a degree of planning and being ready for that. And then it's not like when people could just come and go as they pleased. We never had visiting hours. We welcomed people whatever time was good for them. They were welcome. And you know, so this is just an entirely new model. And it's just figuring out all of the ins and outs and how to make it work best and smoothly.
I think the analogy they're saying is they're building the plane while they're flying it. So I have a question, Star. Did they stipulate who has to monitor the visits? I mean, can it be an elder who monitors, who you train and stuff like that, or did they make stipulations?
Well, they didn't really make stipulations on that. It just has to be monitored.
So, perfect, a job for an elder who wants to do this.
All right, Neil Ann, are you raising your hand? Very good idea, Evie. Thank you.
A great way to get outside, right? Go ahead, Neil Ann.
Yeah, I do raise my hand. I don't know what value I'm going to be because, you know, all the ins and outs of the staff needs to get me up and out. But yeah, I'm willing. We had a visit from Aaron, the therapy dog from the Lutheran Church, and very faithfully do they come. And it was window visits, and even though it is just window visits, it brings Penny, one of the ones that comes, and also Karen, so that there's dialogue going on. And you know, the elders really make a relationship, or some do, with Aaron and the dog and all the visits. But that was new in this COVID time. So it was a bright spot yesterday for several. Anyway, all I can say is that we're in this together. And if you listen to the Republican side, and if you listen to the Democrat side, it depends on that view as to whether we're going better or going worse. So it's like we have to be keen to what's going on in our own population and recognize that, get politics out the best you can, and really listen to your elders, listen to your staff, and use your head the best you can with the facts, and move forward as apolitically as you can. Anyway, God's with us. We just want the best for all the elders and all the staff. Anyway, thanks. It's good to see everybody.
Good to see you, Neil.
It's good to see you too, Neil Ann. I told my teammate, I said, I turned off the news this morning when they were dividing up who's wearing masks by political party. I just thought, oh my God, stop. This is not a political issue. I find that fascinating. I'm with you. Let's apoliticize this. This is about humankind and our survival. Holy cow.
Yeah. So we were talking about who's going to monitor visits, because we have scheduled different days for different, like our assisted living, our skilled, and our life enrichment coordinators are going to be monitoring or in charge of their areas. We have like 8 different areas, and we're doing it from 8:30 to 10:30, and I'm taking the calls and doing the scheduling, and we did some spreadsheets to keep track of that. And then so the girls are putting that on their calendar as outside visits, so then they know, like on Monday, say Bethany will be having the visits, so then Jordan will be out there with the visitors, and then of course you won't be like a police, you know, really watching. The girls will be like working on their laptops, or, you know, let the elder and their family member visit. And then we have like little lapel mics and earbuds for them to use for the hearing impaired and such. So, and then we have Ebenezer's a beautiful campus. Some of you have seen it. So some areas we're going to put up awnings, of course, if it gets too hot or something. We do, and our maintenance guys have already taken tables out and chairs, and so we're ready for Monday to see what's coming. This is something, our next normal. So yeah, so we're excited. You know, it's 15 to 20 minute visit. It's a visit. It's a visit, and it's something, because we've taken so much, so it's a visit, and I'm happy to schedule and get the calls right now.
Are you able to have more than one person out there at a time with their family, or is it just one and then, I'm wondering about the time limit. So one and then they come in and then another person, or?
Yes. So the assisted living, since they're more independent, we are scheduling 3 family members. So 3 different elders will have in different designated areas. And then our skilled, it's 1 family member, 1 neighbor, 15, 20 minute visits. So, and then it's Monday through Thursday, and then Friday for our overflow. So.
Any tips or thoughts about outside visits for Sherry now that she's venturing into them?
Yes, any tips, please?
We were able to do 6 people in a courtyard. We have a rather large courtyard. But what we got was, and I'm going to use the wrong word for it, but a fogger. So we spray the tables in between groupings. So 2 hours for one neighborhood, or 2 neighborhoods, and then 2 hours for the next grouping. So we did the disinfecting with that fogging machine, and it worked really well.
Sherry, are you required to have the visitors show proof of testing, COVID testing?
Yep, we have thermometers. Each of the coordinators will have a bag full of supplies for.
No, I mean the actual COVID test. Do they have to show proof that they've had a COVID test?
That was not asked. That was not in our policy or guidelines. So no,
Well, that's interesting because in Ontario, that became that they stipulated that in order to have a visit into long-term care with your loved one, you have to show proof that you're negative. And that's a bad idea, you know, to show,
Yeah.
you know, that could maybe open up some more visits. I'm wondering if that's something we're
Mhm.
It could,
negotiating.
but that really isn't the right thing to make people have to do either. But we just temp test and answer those questions of
Yeah,
have you been
that's
sick
what we're
for
doing.
all of those things.
Mhm.
Many of our families have said from the beginning, if we offer testing as a community, which we do, can we open it to families? And we're getting very close to being able to do that. But there is some local open testing. It used to be
Mhm,
in the last weeks that you had to have symptoms, and now they're opening it to anybody being able to test, but it's not a requirement in North Dakota.
Mhm. Yeah, there are a lot of different areas and locations here in Colorado that you can go be tested and not have symptoms to be tested. So, but Evie, thank you for that. We weren't required to have families be tested and prove that they are negative at this time.
I mean, I just think it's a negotiating point with the health department that if we can show proof that they don't have it, then they can come in. The
Right.
problem with temperature checks is if you're an asymptomatic carrier, then you don't have a temperature.
Yeah.
And apparently people's temperatures are trending lower these days. So what are we actually looking for in the temperature check?
Right.
And to me, that's not a safe zone.
Mhm.
But I'm not sure the testing is a safe zone either, because again, this is where, where are we getting reliable versus unreliable? But the information that I'm getting is you can get tested today, get your results tomorrow, the next day be exposed, and by the time you get to visit with your elder, you got
Yeah.
it, you're carrying it. And it's like really interesting. It's not like the test is like lifetime proof.
Right? The test's only as good as the day it was done.
I mean, and talking about inconsistencies, even in the chat box here, looking at different maps of Colorado, right here in the chat box, right here on this call, we have differing thoughts and, I must have looked at a less reliable map. And, just what really strikes me so odd about this time right now is, I'm in Rochester, New York, and things are opening up, right? And actually, Dr. Al Power, I think we all know Dr. Al, he had to drop some stuff off at my house this morning. And he was saying he went out to lunch down on Park Ave, very busy place. And he just, even though they're out, he looked over to the next door and the bar is just jammed with people. People are not socially distancing. There's masks, they're not being worn. People are sitting at a table next to him and they don't, they're not family. And they don't have masks on, and like all this stuff is happening. There happened to be a rally I heard about in Oklahoma, but you know what I mean? Like it's like what? But then we have these, and I understand that we have an at-risk population. I get it, but it's so strict. It just reminds me of this institutional life, and I mean, it's like it's overkill when people are putting themselves in danger and risk, and they are allowed to do so. It's just, I don't know, it just seems backwards, going back to all the contradictory things that are happening. So for me, like personally, I all the different messages coming in and out, and then and these, yes, you're able to gather, no, you're not able to gather, you have to wear a mask, masks don't matter, you can't enter a store unless you have a mask on, don't you dare come in if you have a mask. You don't believe in that. It's, wow. I don't know.
It's unfortunately, it's hard to keep politics out of this discussion. It's very difficult because it's the politics in many ways that are driving this.
Yeah, I did say rally. Whoops.
I feel like I had an interesting experience that you probably all noticed I wasn't here. Last couple weeks I've been traveling, doing my best to do so distantly in my van, staying in like the woods and stuff, not seeing people, to make our way to Wisconsin, which is where my spouse's family lives, for a couple of different reasons. My sister-in-law is having some non-COVID health stuff that's kind of scary, and in theory, my brother-in-law is getting married August 1st. And so anyways, we made our way out here, and the visceral difference of how it feels to have been in a city, on a West Coast city, San Francisco, to here, I'm in a small town, about 45 minutes outside of Milwaukee, is just striking. I feel like just in thinking about this conversation too, having this like embodied feeling of there was so much more fear in San Francisco around this, and so much more, like just really, I mean, I feel like a really good example is my roommate started dating someone before this happened, and they like touched for the first time after dating now for 3 months on Saturday, after like both getting COVID tests, us being out of the house so he wasn't, impacting our health, and like they had their first kiss, which was very cute, but very like different. And it's really interesting seeing how it's like, oh wow, it's like just the fear difference, and not even politicizing it, but just realizing like one size doesn't fit all. Like what matters for a city and for a really densely populated area, or for an area that's much more rural, is really different, because there just isn't, I don't know. I don't even really know what I'm saying. I just like want to sort of share like this like visceral feeling of like, yeah, it's complicated and we don't know, and it's very strange having felt very afraid, and then now I'm like, wait, now I'm not afraid, but nothing actually changed, but the world's completely different. This is so weird.
Thank you. That is, yeah. Anybody want to comment on that? That really made me stop. I guess that's some of my feelings too. I'm like, I'm right here in the city, right? And, I had somebody in my house the other day who's been here once a week. She's my friend, and she helps clean her house. And she walked by me kind of close, and we both kind of went, whoa. And I'm like, are we really at that point now where we're scared of being close to another human being? Like, I don't want to leave my house. Now the weekly grocery trip is kind of like, I don't really want to go, It's confusing. I think that's a really good point, Carrie. I don't know. Anybody else thoughts?
I live in the area where it's not that concerning. Our city is 40,000 people perhaps, and everything is pretty much normal. What bothers me is still the number of people that don't want to wear a mask. And I'm still out wearing a mask if I go to the Walmart deal or the grocery store deal, or drive through at Subway. They have masks on, I put mine on. There's respect that goes both ways. But I don't feel as uncomfortable walking near people. If they don't have a mask on, I just turn my head the other way and keep walking.
Yeah. Anybody else? Any thoughts? Well, thank you for bringing up the inconsistency, stars. I think that was a good topic to start off with. And we talked about outside visits. Sherry, you brought that up in the chat box. Does anybody else have a topic that they'd like to talk about on our Friday call? Like I said, it's, I thought I'd turn it over to the team today to see what they think. If there's any hot things you'd like to talk about, Neelian?
This is hardly a hot topic, but what do others do with haircuts? Do you have your beauty people still around?
We just opened ours up to haircuts about 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. This week is the first week that the beautician can have someone in the shop to do a hair perm. So there's lots of perms that have happened this week. But haircuts before that, people just felt bad about themselves because their hair wasn't right.
Yeah, Star.
I just know that I've had direct conversation with the lady who works in our salon, and she's very concerned about the restrictions that have been put in. She's supposed to wear gloves and a face shield and all these things, and she says, I can't cut hair with gloves on. How is that going to work? I can't feel, sounds dangerous. And so until we can, get some sense in those directions, she says she doesn't think she can do her job. So it's like, okay, I guess there's another battle to fight. So it's a matter of trying to get some sense in there. I don't know, Meredith, if your salon, if they're required to wear gloves, but that seems to be the biggest hurdle for her. She just could not wrap her head around that.
I will look to see. I hadn't heard that that's a battle, but thinking back to myself personally, when I go to the salon, whenever, and I'm not saying that I do, but whenever hair color is done, there's a glove on. So they're used to wearing gloves. It's just not all the time. And you think about, I saw a deal on Facebook, one of our local physicians said, hey, you know, I don't feel bad for you. Doctors and nurses have worn masks for years. And they wear masks doing surgery. So you should be able to wear a glove and still feel when they're cutting the hair. But I don't know. To me, it would be just take her a while to get, her or him, a while to get used to it.
I think she's calling the old dog card, because she just was like, oh, there's no way I can cut hair with gloves on. I mean, of course she wears gloves when she does hair color, but it's different. You know, you're not, I mean, getting the hair into position to cut is, to me, a little bit intricate. I cut my husband's hair. I can't imagine doing it with gloves on.
Well, there's two kinds of gloves, right? There's the kind you wear just for doing anything. And then there's the ones you're talking about, the surgical gloves, which are tight fitting. And so what we're giving to people are those loose things. And no, you couldn't do hair, but if they had the surgical gloves, it's quite possible they could, but then they're more expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Abby. Thank you. Yeah, good point. But I know, well, in New York anyway, when I went to the salon, I went about 3 weeks ago, thank you, to get my hair cut, but she didn't have to. And she actually had on like shielded glasses, because with the mask and she tried to do the face mask, but she just about passed out trying to work all day with that. So she had shielded glasses. So they were hoping when they got checked that was going to be okay, but she didn't have any gloves on. But again, that's New York. So,
You know, what I had thought is that, Star, if we went out into the entrance patio and had somebody do at least haircuts. You can't do perms, you can't do shampoos, but my goodness, you're in the fresh air. That seemed to me to be the most reasonable approach to getting a haircut during COVID. But I wish.
Let me go to work on it, Neil Ann. Let me see what I can do. I know my person that cuts my hair says, no, I'm in the high risk group. I'm not cutting hair yet. So, you know, I'm lucky. My hair is long. The ends need to be trimmed, but I'll survive. But I truly believe this is an important issue. So I'll see what I can do to sway both sides into a direction that will be positive.
In the chat box, we have T. Carey. I'm sorry, I don't know your first name. Maybe Denise or somebody does. It says their home bought clippers. They bought you clippers. So you were able to at least keep the gentleman tidied up until your bells and bows hairdresser is open. Nice name. Any comments on that or anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I've heard a lot about the clippers. I've also heard that if you survey your care partner team, you may have people that have experience or can at least do some tidying up on people's hair. And so that might be a possibility that you already have somebody on your team that could do that while you're waiting for the hairdresser to work through her issues so she can come back. But I don't know about you guys, but in the state of Nebraska, the salons are all licensed. And so there is very well-written guidance about how they open up and how they have to be. And I mean, I finally broke down, and last week ours opened up. So I finally got a haircut. And it wasn't bad. I had to hold my mask because of course you can't have it around your ears or they'll be cutting your elastic off. But But it worked out fine. She had a mask on, and I don't think that she wore gloves, though. I don't remember seeing gloves on her hand.
All right, all right. Well, check. We got the, oh, Kathy, thank you, Kathy Hagan. How to
Yes.
cut your own hair, your own long hair. Go ahead.
Yes, Star, I looked at some videos on YouTube on how to cut your own hair if you have long hair, and it'll just cut those little ends off. You kind of put it all, you put it all over the top of your head, and you put a rubber band, and then you pull it, and then you put another band, and then you put another band on the end, and then you just snip off the rubber band, and you get a beautiful straight cut with a little bit of layering because of how you put your hair. And I did it, and it worked. It's not perfect, but it's better than not, right?
Well, there you go. Can work for somebody who has long hair as well as living in your community. All right, thank you. What else do we want to talk about today? Who else has got a hot topic, not so hot topic, something you want to talk about? Something on your mind? I'm turning it back around to you today.
Hey, I've got one.
All right.
What are you all doing for self-care?
Good question, Abby. Good question.
So much easier to keep giving and then being exhausted, right?
But
I
there's
read-
great danger in that.
I read, and my husband can't figure out why I stay up so late, and I need that hour with nothing. I don't want anybody talking. I don't want the TV on. I need it by myself. And it's harder for him to understand that.
So
No, I
Bella,
don't have.
Go on.
Go ahead, Sherry, go ahead, and then Jackie next.
okay, so this is Bella, one of our life enrichment
Yep.
coordinators. So she's going to talk about what she's doing now for self-care.
I'm not very good at like prioritizing work and my home life and taking care of myself. But especially since I started, it's been really rough on me. Very emotional, whatever, you know. But I recently started getting into baking, and you know, that actually makes me feel a lot better. People enjoy eating my cupcakes. So I think that's my self-care.
What's the name of your cupcake?
Bella's Classy Cupcakes is my business name. So
awesome.
That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And nice.
You know what I really like about that too, Bella, is there is creation. There's something you're giving yourself, but then you can turn around, and which I imagine is very intrinsic to you, and you turn around and you give. I just reminds me of my pottery as well. Like I love doing spinning on a wheel, but then I love to give those away. I just want to give them away, and that makes me happy, right? So yeah, that is beautiful. Thank
Why don't
you.
you put the trash in the back with your bag?
Jackie, were you going to say something?
Well, I just asked Addie. We're sitting in the car waiting for my husband, but I asked her. I said, "What am I doing for self-care?" And she said, "Nothing." The 10-year-old knows me. But while we were still on lockdown, we were doing body combat every night. We were working out in the fitness center every night. We were doing all types of things. And I have found that since coming home, it's been really hard for me to, sadly, work from like 8 to 6:30 or 7, get home, feed people, and then by the time 9 o'clock rolls around, who wants to do body combat? Not me, you know. I want to sit on the couch and do stuff. So right now I'm really just trying to find that balance, and I'm hoping once we get back to full staff, things aren't quite so crazy, that I'll be able to start getting back into that balance of, you know, doing the body combat, working out in our fitness center, because it's right there for us. I mean, I go out my office and I take 20 steps and it's right there. So, you know, that's kind of what that's my goal moving forward. But, you know, I think, should I get up earlier and do it? And then I'm thinking, no, because I really like my sleep right now. So it's really about being able to get back to some semblance of me not working 10, 11, 12 hours a day, and then you know, it was really convenient when I lived where I worked. Didn't matter, you know, but now I have to put back in all of the household activities and taking care of other people at home. And so that's kind of been, for me, a little depressing because I haven't had that time for me to do that. And so now that's going to be my goal moving forward. So.
Yeah, and we talked about this, Jackie, of having your kind of bubble, and you were leaving your bubble, and you knew that things would change, and so so yeah, so good luck to you. That balance is so you know, because you were so on one side for a while, like you said, so entrenched, even in your soundproof room. I remember you talking about, right?
Yes.
So
my soundproof room.
right. So what a big change. So yeah, we're all wishing you well on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Denise said, you know, is there a way you can take some short breaks during the day? You know, do something like that.
Yeah, you know, it's been kind of difficult because I'm managing all the visitations. So I'm also supervising when people have a visitation, and I'm not in their space, but we have some members who are visiting their loved ones, and the loved one might have dementia as well and wants to wander off. So I may be like, okay, I have to, you know, I may try to go to the gym, but then all of a sudden somebody's wandering the other way. And so I'm hoping once we kind of get a better schedule going and all of our staff back, then I can take those breaks through the day. Because as it's been for the last week, I've been eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich at about 2 o'clock because that's the only downtime I have, and then running again. So, and I would love to have those short 15-minute breaks. Every time I walk by the gym, I'm like, oh, I want to go in there.
I miss you.
Hi.
Well, thank you, Jackie. Hi.
Say hi.
Hi there.
Here's a disruptor in the making right here.
All right, we like an intentional disruptor. We just gave an award out for that yesterday, so there you go. Yeah, we're getting T-shirts, so we'll be having T-shirts at the Eden Alternative that says our different intentional disruptor, relentless collaborator. So that'll be coming up in the future. Sherry, thank you. You kind of said, I think this is your partner to your right, who's in the room with you. Chris and her husband go camping, and at this time she feels it's very important to go and connect in with nature. Is that kind of where you're coming from?
Yes. Yeah, we go camping every summer, but for some reason this summer it's really important that we go and just be together. And my husband had COVID, and so I think that's part of it, that we need to, and he was really sick, so that we need to be together and share, you know, everything. And camping is the one thing that we just love to do, so that's what we've been doing for self-care.
He's doing good now?
Oh yeah, he's much better. He went back to work, but I mean, it was, if people say that COVID's just not a thing, no. It's a real thing.
It's awful.
And it's scary. It's very scary. So, but for me, it made me appreciate him, I think, more, because he was sick and now he's better. And so now we do a lot. I mean, we always did things together, but now for some reason it's more meaningful, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be understandable. Well, good.
Mm-hmm.
Glad he's doing better. Yay. Yeah, Evie, go ahead. And then Jenny, I think Jenny, you had your hand up next.
So I discovered something interesting. I'm very into self-care. Those of you who know me know that. So I've been reading voraciously in my backyard in nature, and everything is wonderful. But I was reading a book that was recommended, and it was so intense. And it was about two sisters who, you know, one particularly got into the resistance and got caught by the Nazis and everything. It was so intense. At the same time, we were watching this fabulous detective series out of that was so intense. And I found I was a complete and total wreck. I didn't sleep. My anxiety level was through the sky. And I realized that whatever I'm doing, whether I'm reading or watching TV, it cannot be heavy. It has to be light. If it's funny, that's better. But the more intense it is, it's just building and building and building on everything. It's just a point that was fascinating to me.
Yeah, we talk about those, you know, our thoughts, right? And I know you guys have talked about this, and you know what we think is what we focus on, we get more of, right? And if we're focusing on negative, we'll get more negative, right? Focusing on the positive, we'll get more positive. It sounds a little bit like that, what you're immersing yourself in, even that experience that you have, whether, because reading to me is always with your mind. So you're creating a picture up here, like, you know, more so I believe than TV, you know, because someone's presenting you with an idea, you're creating it in your head. So that could penetrate.
You're living it. You're actually, you start living it, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting point. Thank you, Evie. Jenny.
So yeah, I've had a lot of the same experiences as Abby, just the anxiety and knowing like just everything kind of bombarding you. So I was, you guys all know, was struggling with a lot of the work stuff. And then a few weeks ago, there was some personal stuff that got piled onto that too. Some pretty serious diagnoses. And so that really sent me into a tailspin. You know, I can deal with chaos in one area, but not all. And so for me, just being under the care of a doctor has been really important. That's not something I've ever relied on, but just checking in regularly and doing counseling has been really helpful. And then kind of in balance with that, I had an elder approach me about a month ago, and he just walked up and said, "What is your burden?" And it surprised me. And I said, you know, I'm not ready to talk about it. And he said, okay, don't, which I thought was quite wise. But he and I have been meeting every afternoon, and he's been teaching me about meditation and mindfulness, which is just incredible. I mean, I know we all do this every day, but here's a person who in 1 second can't remember how to use the key in his door, and the next moment is telling me how to marry my right and left brains and give things over to the spirit. So as always, the elders have taught me much more than I've ever imagined, but that's what I've been doing for self-care.
Thank you, Jenny. I hope you're okay. Yeah, what a beautiful story too. Yeah, Abby, I saw you shaking your head with that. That really kind of sat with you. Yeah. Wow. I have lots of ideas of self-care. I'm getting my bike. My bike's all ready to go. My husband's revving up my scooter. I have a little scooter named Trinket that I want to get back out on. So I bought a bike helmet. I bought new riding gloves. So I have a lot of ideas about self-care. I think I actually have to get on the bike and put on the helmet. Oh dear. Anybody else? Anybody who's not on camera want to say anything? Hi, people. I see you. I see you not on screen. Is there anything you'd like to say? Our behind the scenes people about self-care? All right. I saw from Sherry. Is this you, Sherry? Gardening and making. So Sherry's gardening and making wreaths and enjoy giving them away. See, there's some to that giving away process as well. The cupcakes, the pottery, the wreaths. Yeah. See if there's anything else in the chat box. All right. Well, we have about 15 minutes left. These are great topics. Thanks for playing today. Like I said, we could decide to continue the call, so I wanted to spin it on you and see what you wanted to talk about for today. So anybody else have anything they'd like to talk about? These have been great topics. Thank you. The floor is yours. I will wait you out. All right. Well, I did have an idea. Do you want me to bring up my idea? Okay. So I was just thinking, me and my husband were talking last night, actually, Chris, his name is Chris too. Isn't that cute? When I saw Chris and her husband are going camping, I was like, oh, is your husband's name Chris? Is it? No. So we were talking, we were talking a little bit about, you know, so much of our mission at the Eden Alternative is to open people's hearts and open people's minds. I feel there's so many people that have not, I know I've never even heard about the plagues of the spirit. I had no idea 15 years ago. I never walked into a nursing home. No idea until I randomly took this course. I was working in dining services. You know, my boss didn't want to go to this training. I ended up going. You know, I said, what's the training for? They said something called Eden. I'm like, okay, no idea. Changed my life, right? So we spend so much time trying to open people's hearts and minds. Now with COVID, our industry is in the forefront, for better or for worse right now, right? People are paying attention that it's not okay to warehouse human beings in private or semi-private rooms, or, you know, this is not okay. These structures that we've built don't work. And we're not paying attention as we should in this industry. So we just got to talking about, like, as we talk about our next normal, and maybe this could be food for thought for next week. But now that so many people are aware, and we didn't have to spend all our energy making them aware, how do we harness that new knowledge that people have? And how do we pull it together to go into this next normal differently, right? So now that our community is more aware, and, you know, there's lots of different issues coming up that people are just saying, wow, I never thought about it like that. And I think our plight for elders is something that's being really looked at right now, and to use that, you know, to our advantage in a way, that we have more time to grab that group of people that are aware and move forward with our cause and mission. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Which was just a random conversation. Yep, you know, me and my hubby are having at night. Any thoughts on that?
Chris, it's really interesting because I was just thinking this morning, because I've heard the talk about, okay, we need to have private rooms for everyone and all of this. And when you stop and really think of that, and, you know, how do you start that? That's a huge, huge undertaking. And in our case, it would mean you're cutting capacity by half, so people are going to lose jobs. And it's, you know, when you start looking at it in the snowball effect is pretty daunting. It's like, wow, okay, well, I see the rationale, I see the reasoning. Just how can we do it so that it doesn't totally disrupt and cause a situation that isn't feasible or workable? It's hard when you already have a system set up. How do you totally revamp it? I listened, and I'm sorry, but his name is going out of my head, the gentleman that Denise interviewed a couple of weeks ago, and wonderful ideas. But it is kind of like upsetting the apple cart. And, you know, how do you take a system that's here and change it to that other model? Starting over from scratch may not be the answer, because I know here in California, trying to build a new building with the layers of regulations and requirements, and people that have to be involved statewide. We have an agency that monitors all healthcare building, and our local hospital had a terrible time getting a new wing opened up, because of course right during the time they were building it there was an earthquake, and so then they had to go back and check and make sure, and it just took forever. And the processes that are in place are very revenue heavy. For us to replace a generator took over a year to get that generator approved by the state agency. And we had to rent another generator the whole time we were waiting for that. And just a simple generator was thousands of dollars when it should have been a fraction of that. It probably increased the cost by 2/3. So there's a lot of hurdles that we need to figure a way around and a way to work with the existing system, but sometimes I think that system needs revamping. It's just very heavy and hard and eats up resources that could be used in a much better way.
Yeah, it is daunting to think about too. And when you think about starting over, I mean, that's of course, everything that goes with that is hugely daunting for new buildings. So yeah, even just the awareness of people and continuing to change people's minds about the way they think about this with the ages and the growing older too. But yeah, so many facets of it. And was it Charles Durrett Star that Denise put that in there? Charles Durrett, yeah, with the co-housing. Yep. And Arlene, you kind of said, let's see, a 93-year-old living with dementia is returning home from after a hip surgery, transferring from hospital to rehab center, only seeing family once during therapy. So the mom is confused and the family prefers to have her return home. She's also asking, what should family expect to be included in the discharge planning and getting financial and medical assistance resources? Sorry, this may not be the venue. I don't know. Does anybody see that in the chat box? If you want to reply back to Arlene. I think it really, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I know some of the people on the call have been taking people through rehab and sending them home in the midst of all this. I just didn't know if you had any advice for Arlene in terms, sounds like she's trying to figure out how to bring mom home and make that successful.
The hard part for us has been to make sure the other agency is willing to go into a home if you need any home care. Some of them have not done that. They've not taken new clients. It all is opening again, but the family should be very involved in what choices there are to have support at home and what kind of help they need to get the financial arrangements going. So if you have a social worker in that area, that's what that person should be doing and advocating for independence.
Thank you, Meredith. Thank you. Arlene says thank you in the chat box. Hi, Jack.
Hello. Sorry to be so late. I've been working against a deadline, but I didn't want to neglect you guys altogether. I so appreciate everything that you're doing here, sacrificing and trying to make this work for everybody. So we salute you and your sacrifice.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, we had today was pick your own topic day on the call. That's what we decided to facilitate. So we've had some great topics to talk about. And unless anybody has anything else, if there's something else you want to talk about in our remaining 6 minutes, or we could just end the call and see each other next week. What do you think?
Well, I'll just mention I published an article which has aroused considerable controversy on, you can go to seniorhousingforesight.net. The title of the article was, Should Nursing Homes Be Closed? Which really goes to some of the issues that we're confronting here, which are, can we provide these benefits within a more patient-centered environment? And that's, of course, the calling to which you all have been summoned. So you might find that article in the discussion, because it roused some discussion, as you might expect, to be interesting. It's a difficult topic to raise, And I noticed that Howard Gleckman, who's also a noted commentator in this scene, and Bob Kramer, for that matter, have also commented on this. So that's something you might want to take a look at.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. And then Kathy just put that in the chat box. I knew either Kathy or Denise were going to. Thank you. Both. Yeah, and who was the last gentleman you mentioned, right? We had a Facebook Live call with him, right?
Bob Kramer. Bob Kramer, he was a congressman, I believe, at one time, but he got interested in trying to promote responsible investment in senior housing. And so he formed the National Investment Center. And recently he's retired. Brian Jarutka is now the CEO of the National Investment Center. Bob has formed a new enterprise to work with provider organizations called Nexus Insights.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we have, if anybody's interested in that with Bob Kramer as well, Jill did one of our Facebook Lives shows, our Monday show with Bob Kramer. So they talked an hour about, I thought it was a very interesting call, and that's on our main Facebook page. If you go over to videos on the left, you could find it there along with lots of other videos and our Eden moments and all that good stuff. So thank you. All right, well, thank you everybody for being here on the Friday call. We're going to continue to do these. If you have something or a topic that you're thinking about, or something comes up during the week, please email myself or Denise or whoever, and let us know, because we're always looking for topics to talk about. We'll bring something, of course, but again, this is all of our calls, so we'll keep coming up with topics together, okay?
So just a note, next Friday is a holiday, so we will not be meeting next Friday. I'll put that in the email follow-up as well, but we're going to take a week off. I didn't realize how close we were to the holiday, so we will not meet next week, but we will meet the week after that. So
yes.
Happy 4th of July to all of you.
Bye,
Yes.
everyone. Be safe. Bye.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Neil Ann.
Bye.
Thank you. And I see your message, Neil Ann. Thank you in the chat box. Bye.